All right. Good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I hope you can see me. We'll see. How are you doing on this Friday, the 24th of January, 2025? I assume that's the right date. That's what I put in the title, so I guess it better be the correct date. Yes, I can hear myself. That's good enough. Won't get better. That's all I can do here. So how are you guys doing? Yes, Ori, I was supposed to use a dedicated thumbnail for this. Also made one. If it hasn't worked, then that's probably on StreamYard. Let me see if I can fix that. That's like the thing. I can just like go through the motions and hope that it works, and it doesn't. Obviously, Screen Reader doesn't tell me what the thumbnail says. It doesn't do image recognition on my computer, so I would have to double check on the phone and hope that the phone then tells me that there, something happened. It's a bit a bit of a mess. So let me see. Let's try that. In why not? I'll just see if I can fix this. Yeah, that's an option. Edit stream. There's a thumbnail thing. No idea how to. Yeah, it's the usual joy of not being accessible, and that I'm right now struggling with. So I don't know how to fix that right now. I'll still play around with it. I don't know, maybe during the first sprint. So it's all complicated. It gives me like the wonderful option of reading through how to do that when it just it tells you to click on something, and if that clickable thing is not marked as a button, then the screen reader can't engage with it, which kind of sucks. Nice. So yeah, there was supposed to be one, but if the thing doesn't work, then I don't know how to change that right now. So I'll just play around with it some more. I guess my question is, did it work with the thumbnail for tomorrow's stream, like the normal monthly Marxist malcontent? Because that one, the stream is already sort of set up, but if one of you could check if it does have the correct thumbnail, because otherwise I'll have to play around with that one as well, which is frustrating. Hey, Britton, how you doing? What was your review that you wanted to film and now have to film tomorrow be about, Britain, if I may ask? Yeah, I'm still reading through Words Are My Matter by Ursula Le Guin, which I started on a whim yesterday while I was on the bus, and I was done with Blindside, which is a really interesting book. I do appreciate what Peter Watts does, One thing it reminded me of in some ways was Solaris by Stanislav Lem, which I found interesting in the way that but not only Solaris, but like there's a second one called, I think it's called The Astronauts or just Astronauts or something like that by Stanislav Lem, which is about exploration on Venus. And I think that one also has like not necessarily similar themes, but the way it Blindside does extremely hard sci-fi first contact, and how it goes very hard on like this is incredibly different and alien from who we are and how to interact with that. I think Blindside takes a lot from Lem in that regard. Certainly that's like one of the things I got from it. I mean, obviously there's the whole like consciousness or whatever you want to call it bit in there that is very much Peter Watts' own sort of like perspective on it, but the way he goes about the whole like first contact thing reminded me a lot of Lem, which is a good thing, just to be clear. No, the audiobook does not have the appendices. Of course not. Okay, so the setting up the correct thumbnail thing in Restream doesn't actually work the way I thought it was. Guess I'll have to play around with that some more. Good to know. I guess then I'll be putting in thumbnails during the first sprint, next to checking emails and writing comments and stuff like that. What a mess. So unnecessarily complicated. And that's kind of the point, right? Like I've switched to using Restream for now because I still haven't figured out how to just do stuff on only OBS to avoid all of these somewhat problematic streaming services that run just like through browser applications. I try to not use StreamYard anymore because, as I said before, I don't like them. I don't like their approach. The way they're doing stuff feels incredibly close to being predatory. The way they're clearly marketed to be being used by people who work for like different MLMs and the way they're basically marketing themselves to people who want to do streaming or stuff like that, but don't know how to use technology and how proud they are that you can stream on Facebook and so forth, which is clearly where you go if you want to sell whatever it is MLMs are selling these days, leggings or Herbalife or whatever, right? So that's why I don't want to use those things. But OBS is, it's still complicated. And Restream is slightly better. I think it's slightly less sleazy in its presentation, but while the thumbnail thing worked better on StreamYard, I haven't figured out how to do it properly on Restream so far, which is frustrating. Hey, Kale, how you doing? Yeah, that's probably a good idea to thanks to, I didn't know it was Creative Commons. That's but that would explain why the audiobook is actually part of the free, like the Audible Plus catalog thing, and then you don't have to actually have to pay credits for it. With Echopraxia being one that I have to pay for, which I will do because it seems to be just like different characters and just the same universe, but later, from what I can tell from the back cover. So definitely looking forward to trying Echopraxia and probably reading more Peter Watts because I can work really well with that. It's a kind of writing style that I can get along with. Okay, I have not heard of that one because I haven't read through all of the Strange Horizons recommendations yet. But yeah, let me know if it stays piratey, then I can totally see myself going for that as well. Ah, interesting. Yeah, as I like now for the time being, I'm reading Words on My Matter by Ursula Le Guin, which is fun to read because I generally always appreciate Ursula Le Guin, especially for just being very angry. And even in the bits where I don't agree with her, like the whole thing about like the the, the one short thing where that was published on Boing Boing, where she was angry that they didn't ask her, and I get why she was angry, but like even where I disagree with her, I appreciate that she's just like really really angry and very much definite. It's just like nice to have someone who's always 150% sure of what she's doing or saying in a piece that she's written, and that's nice. And yeah, so it felt like a good switch between books, and after reading Wizard of the Pigeons and Blindside, I'm like, I don't know what if I really want to start the next fiction book. And I mean, the other part is, of course, that I haven't gotten around to recording videos lately, which is incredibly frustrating to me. I'm like super annoyed about it. I started re-recording the On Stranger Tides video yesterday, but the problem with like filming outside is, of course, that if I'm halfway through a video, my neighbors start like a yelling match and fight outside, um, and that ruins the entire video because I'm obviously much more, affected by all kinds of noises out there, which is a bit of a problem. The last time I did that, like halfway through, someone started using like a power drill or whatever, like massive like construction gear, like around the corner, and suddenly, yeah, it was too loud to keep recording, and yeah, I could probably take a break and come back to recording once the noise is over, but that's always hard because that means I have to do editing, and editing always makes me very insecure because I can't, properly edit. I can't take out terrible frames. I mean, I can produce jump cuts like nobody's, but I have to do it all by audio, by listening, and that's incredibly always makes me insecure because I never know how it actually looks, which is, just additional stuff, which is why I prefer just recording in like one cut, and that's that. I always thought about like maybe should I ever have enough money, which, we will find out, to take like a video that I've recorded, like something, and asking someone who does sort of like editing, or is an actual, semi-professional video editing, right? Someone who knows how to do video editing, and just handing them the thing, and also, and then just letting them go like, okay, do your best or worst, whatever you want to call it, and just to compare the two things to see how much of a difference it does actually make with the way I do approach content in general, right? The way I do record in one go without reading a script or anything of the sort. Like does like how much does cutting out dead air and stuff? How much does that in fact change the effect of a video? That's something I would be interested in finding out, but for that, I need someone who knows how to do video editing and have enough money to pay them. Which, I know I can go on Fiverr and just pay like $10 or something, right? But I'd rather do that kind of experiment with someone I know somewhat, or feel like I can trust in a way. But yeah, it's certainly something I'm interested in. So how is it different from Titanic in that regard, if I may ask? No, seriously. Um, Downfall is an interesting movie for sure, but I'm not necessarily like it gets some things right, but I think it falls into that trap of making um the whole like fascination with evil, I think, is something that it kind of falls into that trap, which I think is it's dangerous. It's highly difficult to avoid, just because of like how you know how fascism is built on images, on spectacular images in a lot of ways, right? So having and with the way that the Nazi leadership went out, we, especially with Hitler, right? We don't have like a very good ending final picture of Hitler's death the way we have with Mussolini, where I'm like, yep, you know what, that final Mussolini picture of him hanging on, at the gas station or wherever it is, where they, that takes away the power over images. With Hitler, we don't have that. So anytime you have, you present Hitler in a visual media, you struggle against that. You have the same kind of problem, right? It's easy to fall for the same pictures because all you can use as inspiration are the pictures that are your Riefenstahl and whatever pictures that frame him as like separate from everyone else, as unique. And that's a trap that I think Downfall fell into without, actively wanting to, but it's very difficult to avoid, I think. I think, like, in that regard, I feel like Death of Stalin is a much better movie when it comes to looking at, sort of like the inner circle of a dictatorship in a lot of ways, because it does not take itself too seriously. And I think taking fascism seriously as a movement means that you need to make fun of the protagonists in a way, disrespect them, right? Going like Hitler was evil. Yeah, no shit. But mocking him and making fun of him is much more effective than going, well, he was the evilest man alive, which probably not. Let's be frank here. And that, I think, is something that Downfall, in its very German sort of approach to history, failed to do. There's too much respect in there. That's the point. It's like it respects those people, and that's something you should never do. Yeah, that's the point, right? You look at those kind of regimes, and you're like, holy shit, how insane! And Death of Stalin brings that out by being so, surrealist in a way. And I think that's something that that's a chance that Downfall missed by just playing it straight, because by playing it straight, but with that sort of like respectful distance in a way. And I think that's why I think the movie does fail, whereas Death of Stalin does succeed. So that's my thoughts on Downfall. But it's been ages since I saw it. I went to the movie when it when it played in theaters, so I might I don't know. Maybe the way those one or two like famous clips have been memed into absolute nothingness does sort of like change the way that movie works, because now we have just that one clip of Hitler, and that's what people think about. And I'm like, maybe that does slightly change the effect, but I'm not quite sure about that. Yeah, but maybe comedy is sometimes the only thing we can make out of history. That's the whole, the thing about history repeating itself as tragedy and farce, right? It's there's truth to that, and I think, yeah, with all sort of like authoritarian regimes and dictatorial regimes, what they try to do is project, an aura of invincibility, an aura of, dominance in a lot of ways. And the only way you can break that sort of aura is by mocking them relentlessly, by making fun of them, which is, why the whole their weird thing whereby that Tim Walz said like last year was so successful, or not like successful in the end, because obviously Trump and gang won, but like that's the one thing that got under the skin of like the MAGA people, was calling them weird, making them showing how fundamentally unserious and ridiculous they are is sort of like the one thing you need to do to all authoritarian regimes. And it does kind of work. I mean, a lot of people are doing it and have been doing it, say, to the Kim regime in North Korea, and I think it does work there. And there's, of course, always people making fun of Trump in one way or another, but you need to keep doing that. You need to do that with Hitler. You need to do that with Stalin. You need to do that with Putin. You need to do that with anyone like that. You need to be mocking them relentlessly. It's one of those things that, where cabaret and political comedy and carnival as as a cultural institution kind of come in. The problem is, of course, that what with a media landscape that is vastly, obedient to power, it's more and more difficult to do that. Like the internet can partly do that, but only if you don't get banned for making fun of people in power. Because while we have free speech, that's not necessarily mean we have free speech for everyone. Okay, the regime. Oh, I've heard about that. I haven't seen it, of course, but yeah, I've heard good things about the regime. So maybe I'll have to check that one out. Yeah, guess I have to figure out what to read now that I like after Words on My Matter by Le Guin. There is another one, like an older non-fiction collection by Le Guin's, is finally getting an audiobook release in February or March, which is the is it called Language of the Night, something like that, which is the one that has the From Elfland to Poughkeepsie essay in it that both Philip Chase and Liam have spoken about. So I'm very excited to finally get the whole collection. But that's in February. So who knows what I will be turning to next. I thought about maybe reading Red Plenty by Francis Spufford, because that obviously is like the kind of book that I might be very, very interested in. I have not visited Belarus. I have, like, the furthest east down, like up here in the north I've been is Łódź in Poland. Obviously, I've been further east, like I've been to Bulgaria. I've been mostly on the Balkans. I have not been to Belarus, no. No, I've been to Bulgaria, I've been to Croatia, I've been to Serbia a bunch of times, been to Slovenia, I've been to North Macedonia, and yeah, a lot of times in Bulgaria, but I have not been to Belarus. Poland, Czech Republic, yeah, not Slovakia though. I have friends who have been there. I have friends who have had to pay bribes to cops in Belarus for well, being in Belarus, I guess, already it's like the one thing that that does lead to that, I guess. But yeah, and I don't think I'll get there anytime soon. Like the whole thing is still kind of difficult. I mean, it's difficult to go to Russia at the moment, even, and that's already frustrating. I mean, not that I've been there before and all of that, but it's yeah. We'll have to wait and see how things are going on in the next couple of years in that regard. Yeah, I can see how that might slip you past as a kid, of course. And I mean, depending on the kind of dictatorship you're visiting, it also really depends on what you are doing there as a tourist, for example, right? You can you can go to, I don't know, like the Black Sea coast in Russia, like to Sochi or something, and not notice how fucked up like Putin's regime is. I'm pretty sure you can do that, and so forth. Right? There's always ways of doing that, especially if your dictatorial regime is relying on tourism as one of its ways of financing itself, right? Then they'll make sure that you don't notice anything as a clearly marked tourist, because that's just like how that works. Yeah, exactly. Like Bali was always, the tourist place. Of course, they make sure that you don't notice anything if you're there. And as a child, exactly. I mean, you're depending on your age, you're not trying to find underground newspapers and so forth to learn anything about the brutal regime. That's not what children do. Yeah, I've heard about that. Like a friend of mine who sadly passed last year went to North Korea numerous times for research for her PhD, which now is sadly unfinished. And yeah, it's weird, but of course they're nice to tourists. You need to obviously stay in line and so forth. Don't try to steal posters or shit and all that. But of course they want to make sure they want to make sure you come back with like a good impression. Yeah, exactly. Unless you step over the line, that's like the one thing that don't do that. It's a very bad idea. But that's kind of the problem, Britain. Too cold really depends on where you are. If you're in the Black Sea, like around Sochi, no, of course not. It's not cold there. And depending on who you are and how much wealth you have, it's not very authoritarian for you unless you actually challenge power. Which I mean, how often do you challenge power in the U.S.? Right? That's like the question. Like, if you just are there and spend money and don't question like actual power, you'll be fine, especially if you are well, obviously cis hetero and all of that, because obviously existing as, say, a trans person or existing as a queer person does by definition already challenge power in a place like Russia at the moment, or in the United States for that matter, right? So I think that's sort of like the question, like how you realize that you are living in an authoritarian regime. Usually, you only realize that as soon as you, by either existing or by actively go trying to challenge power. As soon as you do that, you come up against the authority. But unless you do that, you're mostly fine. That's like the trick with it, right? But Kale, that's something you can see in like every large city, every small city for that matter, if you try to, right? That's just like that's one result of urbanization and capitalism is you'll find places where you can see that. It's like just go to any major train station or anything of the sorts in Europe, and you'll find people like that, or around. Usually, train stations are like a place where that happens because transit and so forth. I'm sure that would be the same in the US if you had more train stations. But anyway, shall we try the thing where we pretend to be productive and I figure out how to do the fucking thumbnail thing? How about that? Um, I'll be back in 45 minutes, which means a 9:15. So good luck with being productive and all of that. And I am back. How did you guys do? I hopefully figured out a way to update the thumbnails and all of that. I guess if one of you feels like checking, that would be really nice. Hey, Broken Spines, how you doing? Well, I mean, productivity kind of depends. Speaking of Kale, I just one of the shorter essays in Words on My Matter by Ursula Le Guin was on sleep and how sleep is in fact an action and not just something happening to us, and how we only conceive of like dreams as something we do, whereas sleeping is not necessarily something we see as an active action, which interesting take. So there might be productivity in what you do at night, even so. It also had a recommendation once again for the Aubrey Maturin series, which I guess I need to read at some point. I mean, I don't know why I haven't, but yeah, more and more people tell me to read those books because Master and Commander is actually really good, and I'm like, yeah, sure, I don't doubt it. Wonderful. See, that's so frustrating. I didn't change it on my phone. I changed it using a different web browser because apparently Firefox and my screen reader are still hating each other when it comes to YouTube things. Microsoft Edge works, which absolutely hurts my soul that I have to use it. But yeah, what can you do? It sucks on a soul level, but sometimes I guess it's the kind of compromise we need to make if we want to be functional in the digital world, which goes back to that whole never forgive them article and like the rot economy that Ed Citron has been talking about, and how functionality of stuff online just gets worse and worse and worse, and how that is a form of aggression and does actually cause harm because it frustrates us, it makes us more irritable, or it pushes us out of having conversations to begin with. And yeah, what can you do? It sucks, but I wanted to mention it as an example. But yeah, at least now I know how to fix it for now, and we'll see how that goes in the future. Yeah. Beyond that, I did do the usual stuff: reply to messages, read emails, all of that stuff. So I guess I'm ready for the next sprint to be, actually productive and trying to write stuff and all of that. I've been really struggling with that recently. I don't know why. I said, generally this week has been incredibly frustrating on all these levels. Right, I decided that I really want to redo the whole like video on Stranger Tides, and that hasn't happened for multiple reasons, and I haven't managed to record any other video, which is incredibly frustrating because it feels like I'm not doing anything, which is obviously wrong, but it feels like I'm sort of in this weird place where nothing happens, where I can't get anything figured out, and it's not nice. I hope the weekend will help with that. Who knows? We're visiting a brewery today with a group of friends, so that'll be interesting. But yeah. That I kind of need to figure out how to get out of, and hopefully I'll manage to re-record the On Stranger Tides video tomorrow or on Sunday. And I want to talk about, make a video on Death of the Author by Nnedi Okorafor, and potentially one on The Power Broker by Robert Caro. Not Robert Moses, it's about Robert Moses. Potentially Wizard of the Pigeons. I don't know if I feel like talking about Blindsight by Peter Watts. I might not. I might want to check first and first read Echopraxia to have like a full idea of where the whole thing is going. So yeah, that's something I need to figure out. Yeah. So that's hopefully I'll get back to doing these kind of like doing more videos, and hopefully that will help me feel less useless, which is, one of those goals, like trying to feel not completely useless. But yeah, we'll see. Um, I also obviously need to read more pirate books to make more pirate videos, but if I'm already this far behind, I figured I'll better wait until, I have the On Stranger Tides thing out, so I can then go and talk about the pirates, and then I can move on, maybe talk about the Scar or the Revenger stuff, and we'll see. It's all just weird. So yeah, that's that's why I also haven't been really good at like writing, because I look at it and I'm like, why bother? Why do anything? And I think it's one of those, like, it's not even, obviously I wouldn't call it writer's block because I'm not a writer, not enough of a writer to have like writer's block, but it's more like the general apathy that the world is currently sort of like forcing everyone down into, I think. And yeah, I mean, obviously the goal is to overcome that. Well, I haven't reached that point yet. I mean, the other part is like, wait, I look at like what BookTube is currently doing. I'm like, I don't want to go back and talk about fucking Neil Gaiman again now that everyone else has finally decided to do that, because it clearly seems to be a good thing for the algorithms right now to make a video about Neil Gaiman now, unlike last year. And I don't want to play that game. But I've certainly seen other booktubers really going into it now, and I'm like, nah, nah. So yeah, it's been all a bit frustrating of late. All right, but speaking of productivity, shall we maybe actually start now and maybe end at 10 sharpish, because then I can take the earlier bus, which would allow me a bit more time between the gym and leaving for that trip. The other way around, it's probably still possible if I take the later one. But since we're now not in like an long ass diversion and controversy or whatever, like we did sometimes end up in, I figured this might be a good idea to do it, and we'll just do 35 minutes of sprinting, and I'll leave at 10 to I don't know, do stuff. So that's what we'll do. I hope everyone's going to be fine, either get stuff done or go to sleep, all of that. Tomorrow there will be the not fuck tomorrow. Fuck. Will be the sorry. Will be the monthly live stream in the evening for however long it'll go, and all of that. I hope to see some of you there. That would be fun. We'll just talk about stuff. I'll probably get angry. There's enough stuff to get angry at. I might call other booktubers different names and all of that. We'll see. I certainly have stuff to talk about, so I hope to see some of you there. And yeah, I'll talk to you quickly near the end before I run for the bus. And I am back. How did you guys do? I did, in fact, well, do something smart. I couldn't get into like writing fiction stuff, so I started structuring the Death of the Author video for, Death of the Author. Because, that may involve another reminder what the text is actually about, and then hopefully I'll get to talk about intersectionality and technology and disability and other things I know nothing about, which, basically is everything. Hey, well, in this case, good morning. I'm about to leave to go to the gym and then undo all of that work I do in the gym by going on a brewery tour with friends. So that'll be what happens today. Kale, I don't have a favorite soccer team because I'm not interested in soccer. That's a very simple answer. I mean, there are a few sort of like soccer teams where I'm fine with them because of what they do outside of soccer as like political stuff. St. Pauli in Hamburg being a very anti-fascist kind of team and stuff like that. I appreciate, but I'm just not interested in soccer. It's not the kind of I'm not generally that much interested in like sports because I don't do any sports at the moment. I mean, obviously I go to the gym and work out, but that's just like something I do. I find it difficult to get interested in watching sports or following sports if I'm not actually doing the same kind of sports, because that means I don't know. I lack like the personal experience that gives me a tie to that, and that's certainly why I'm not really interested in soccer at all. I mean, just not something I do. All right. Now that it is this late, I will end the stream. I'll be, doing the normal stream tomorrow. We'll see how hungover I am from the brewery tour. That will also impact whether I'm able to record the video for On Stranger Tides tomorrow. We'll see how all of that goes. So, yeah, have a great Friday. Have a great start to your weekend. And yeah, I'll talk to you very soon. And of course,